Date: June or July 1992, 5 p.m. Location: Southern Maryland. This is rather a short encounter, because I was riding in a car and basically saw it and rode past it. I have been past the site hundreds of times since then, but I have never gone out and walked around the area. Maybe I should. This encounter changed my life. When I read the encounters on this sub and hear about other people's stories, I never discount them. Why? Because I know what I saw, and who am I to question someone else's experience? Sure, there are a lot of made-up stories and creepypasta out there, but I strive to find credible sounding accounts and share them with all of you. Enjoy my personal experience. It was evening, and my family and I were coming back from Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, from having dinner with my brother and my mom and dad. I was 15 to 16, in the back right passenger seat chilling with my brother, riding along. I'm just looking out the window, and there is a little road that merges onto the main road on the left. So as we merge, we pick up a little speed. We are going maybe 25 to 30 miles per hour, and you have to cross this little bridge and it's really bumpy, so we slowed even more. Once we did that, I look up ahead, and about 75 yards ahead, I see something standing on the wood edge off to the right a little, exactly at the edge of the woods. It had both arms on a tree, just standing there, meaning its right arm was on a tree about shoulder height, and its left arm was on a tree at about shoulder height. It was about 7 feet tall, maybe even taller, had a wolf-looking face, only larger like a dire wolf from Game of Thrones, really broad shoulders, muscular arms, a barrel chest, and it narrowed the rest of the way down. It was dark brown and the hair was medium length. I didn't get a great look at the legs because it locked eyes with me. It knew I saw it, and it saw me. I saw it at a good distance up ahead and was like, what the hell is that standing on the wood edge? Soon as I said that, I locked eyes with it. I saw it for a good 10 to 15 seconds, because of how far up ahead I first noticed it moving around, and how slow we were traveling. It took my breath when I first realized what I was looking at, and my first thought was, God, that thing is ugly. It had very pointy features, and it didn't look like a Bigfoot, but an actual werewolf. A lot of people call it a dog man, but I'm more inclined to say that this was an actual wolf man. I said out loud to my family, did you guys see that thing? Obviously, they were like, see what? Another thing, this was in Southern Maryland, where there are no bears or other large animals. So that was my encounter. My family still doesn't believe me, and most other people think I'm crazy or lying, so I very rarely tell anyone about it. But it was real. It was there. And what bothers me is, why was it there? And where did they come from? A skinwalker is a person with the ability to turn into any animal they desire. The Navajo skinwalker is known as Yinaldalushi, and is a variety of Navajo witch. It is apparently far more common for men to be skinwalkers, though it is possible for women as well. Skinwalkers is something we don't talk about because it can bring them on, so to speak. So I will remain anonymous. My grandfather told me this story only one time because he wanted me to know about skinwalkers and their danger. It was somewhere around the early 1950s in Arizona. He had spent 2 years in the US Navy fighting in the Korean War, and was looking for work to support his family back at home in Kentucky. He had a Navy buddy who told him who to contact in Arizona to help find a job. He never did tell me what he was going out there to do, so that part I don't know. He set up camp right outside of an Indian reservation. He had just started his fire when he heard a noise coming from the wooded area. He looked up and saw a hairy dogman-like beast. It came out on all fours, and then stood on hind legs. He said he immediately knew it was a skinwalker, because it looked like nothing else he had ever seen. Plus, he sensed it was evil from the get-go. He knew it was bad. He picked up his bag of blessed stones, I always called it his medicine bag, and started praying in native language. He said the beast stopped, got back down on all fours, and walked back into the woods. He said he gathered his stuff and quickly got out of there. He made his way back home to Kentucky, and thankfully got a job driving the ferry boat on the Ohio River. He never went back to Arizona, nor did he talk about it. He only told me because he taught me everything I needed to know to carry on a Blackfoot tradition, of which I am proud to do. This is something that happened to me and my husband a good 9 years ago. We had gone to watch our friend's band play and were headed home from downtown Dallas. I don't live in a metroplex any longer, so it's not personal information. It was around 1 a.m. and we still had plans before I was expected home, still dating at the time. So we headed to his apartment in one of these South Dallas suburbs. This is a pretty well populated suburb, but by the time we got close to his apartment, the roads were pretty much empty. We exited the highway and turned onto the street that led to his apartment, but as soon as we passed the traffic light under the highway, we both saw it, plain as day, stone sober and wide awake. We both saw a motherfucking werewolf type creature exit the neighborhood street and calmly run in about 4 steps across a 4-lane road. It was about 75 yards in front of us, but it wasn't exactly the way I imagined a werewolf. It was completely canine. No human features at all except for the fact that it was on 2 legs. The legs were massive, and the thing was about 7 feet tall, but the arms reminded me of T-Rex arms. They were small and still hung like dog legs. They seemed very useless if the thing were trying to attack something. The head was also odd. Besides being a typical dog color, grayish black, the eyes were bright glowing yellow, even when there weren't headlights shining directly in them. It didn't look like the glow an animal gets from lights in their eyes anyway. But the thing that stood out to me the most was that the eyes were binocular, like a fish. I saw the eyes clearly, even though he was completely profiled to us. The road we were driving on had heavy trees to the right-hand side of us. When it came out, it was running but crossed this road in just a few steps. It was big enough and effortlessly fast enough to know that a human couldn't have dressed up and done this. There was an open field that he ran into. When my husband and I got to where the trees broke, we both turned our heads to look, but it was long gone by then, about 4 seconds. I think the only thing that was said was a quiet, "What the fuck?" by me. More about what this thing looked like. It was more menacing than my photo, but to be honest, much less scary than what I would imagine a werewolf to be. When it was running across the road, I didn't get the sense that it cared about that we saw it, or that it was even trying that hard to cross before we got closer. I didn't feel fear as if we were threatened. Only a disbelief, really. And again, it's not like we were in a rural area by any stretch of imagination. When we passed the tree line, his apartment complex was literally another 150 yards or so up the road. We hurried in and didn't exactly get to our plans. We basically just sat there in silence trying to rationalize, I guess. Still, to this day, I often think to myself, I mean really, did this really happen? But as soon as I close my eyes and think about it, those bright yellow eyes are still there.